won the Heisman Trophy 2002, first overall pick in 2003, three-time Pro Bowler. Carson Palmer joins us on Bull Market Fantasy. Carson, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, everybody I tell it you're going to come on, they say, you have Carson Palmer? You have Carson? I said, of course, because we all have made some great fantasy runs because of you. But let's talk real football for a second. Bruce Arians was your coach for 5 seasons. You're very familiar with his offense. We see Tom Brady with Arians in Tampa Bay. In some games, Brady looks unbelievable. In others, it looks like he's struggling. What are the main keys to passing success in an Arians offense?
Well, the main keys are the things that they don't have: time on task, repetition after repetition after repetition. And unfortunately, because of COVID and because of Brady's first year in that system, that's unattainable. And that ship has sailed. So they're having to learn on the fly. It's an extremely complicated system. And when I say that, people go, yeah, but Brady's the best of all time. No doubt about that. I'm not saying that. It's a very, very complicated offense. There's a ton of formations. There's a ton of motions, a ton of shifts and adjustments that happen at the line of scrimmage. And Brady's used to being in the same system for 20 years. And so now it's a totally different terminology, different in every way. It's a downfield first attack, where when Brady was in New England for all those years, it was a short underneath game attack first, and then they took their shots. So it's just been a massive adjustment period with very little training camp, 0 OTAs, and time with all his receivers and weapons that he has there in Tampa.
Carson, when you played for a bunch of different head coaches, a bunch of different offensive coordinators, at what point when you had a new system, at what point in the season or maybe in year 2 or 3, at what point did you say, okay, now I got it, now I'm comfortable with everything?
Never. I don't think you ever feel like I've got it all. I've figured it out. Even Tom Brady, even the guy with the most Super Bowl rings in his 43rd year, but you don't want that. If you're a coach and your players have that, your system's probably pretty stagnant and the defense is starting to figure it out. So it's always a moving target. It's always something you're trying to perfect and get better at and know more about. And if as soon as you, the quarterback, or any players on offense have it completely figured out, then the defensive play caller on the other side of the field probably has you pretty much figured out and pinned down. So you're never completely comfortable and completely confident in everything that's going on around you.
Well, of course, that reminds me of this Sunday's game. Obviously, I'm a diehard Eagles fan, and you get a guy like Jalen Hurts comes in because it's just, frankly, Wentz could not deliver. And I think Bill and I were talking as it happened that the playbook, people think the playbook is simple. I mean, as you just said, I mean, it could take months and months to learn. And even if you're get first team reps for a week in practice, that's nothing, right?
No, I mean, you know, I cringe when I'm hearing so much criticism over Carson Wentz. And then you hear people talk about, yeah, let's throw the rookie in there that didn't get any OTAs, that had 0 offseason. He's got nobody to throw the ball to. He's got a complete, it's a shuffling of offensive linemen coming in, coming out, injuries. And you want to throw a rookie in there that was a 2nd round draft pick over what was Carson, the 2nd pick in the draft? Yes. I think that's a recipe for disaster if you want to throw a rookie into that really, really difficult, almost impossible situation in Philly.
What do you think happened to Carson? I mean, I've met the young man multiple times. He's a sure hand. He had pure joy when he came in. I didn't see that same kind of enthusiasm last year. They, of course, couldn't get in this year because of COVID, but and he ate alone. I mean, I remember I always get that breakfast with the team. He ate alone last year, but that's okay. Maybe he's thinking. But there seems to be no joy to his play. When I watched you play, I sensed that you had joy. I'm not saying you play for nothing, but I sensed that you liked it.
Not when I was losing. I don't know many guys that have a ton of joy when they're losing. And, if I can talk anybody off the Carson Wentz ledge, it's all of Philadelphia. Everybody needs to just back up a little bit. You look at the weapons they have or don't have. Their top 2 guys have been on the sideline until Alshon Jeffrey just got in. Deshaun Jackson and Alshon are taking up $8, $9, $10 million a year cap. Offensively up front, you just look at Carson and he's never comfortable in the pocket, and he should not be. There is not a soft spot in the pocket to work to. And yes, there's been some inconsistencies and there's been some miscommunications. There's been some accuracy issues, but all of those fall down to confidence. He's not confident in the guys that are running routes outside. He doesn't have a great rhythm and timing with them. And on top of that, you don't know when you're going to get hit in the back of the head at the top of a 3-step drop. I mean, he's got guys coming free. He's got offensive linemen getting barreled back into his lap. And when you combine the fact that you don't have anybody on the outside that you really trust to get open in one-on-one situations, and you can't step into throws and confidently deliver the football, that's a recipe for disaster. And so I know he's taken a lot of heat and he has not played well, but I don't know many quarterbacks in the history of the league that would go into that situation and have great numbers. I mean, if I'm a D coordinator and I'm playing against Philly, I'm playing cover one all game. I'm playing man-to-man and saying you don't have anybody that can beat our worst corner in one-on-one pass route. So it's really a bad situation. And, at the end of the day, when you start thinking about and evaluating a team, the first 3 things I look at are who's your quarterback, who's your head coach, and who's your owner. All 3, Carson Wentz is the number 2 pick in the draft, one of the highest paid players in the game. Regardless if you think he's worthy of that money right now, he was worthy of that money at some point. And I believe that he will show that there is value in that contract with him. The second thing you look at is the head coach. The head coach is young. The head coach already has a Super Bowl, so he's got that monkey off his back and that pressure off of his back. And then the third thing I look at is the owner. And Jeffrey Lurie is willing to do what it takes to win. He's willing to spend money. He knows that he shouldn't completely stick his nose in every single move, and he hires the right people around him. So, I think those 3 things bode well for the future of the franchise. You got a young quarterback that's having a terrible year that is already under contract, and those contracts are continuously going up. So at some point near the end of his contract, if he can get back to Pro Bowl form, which he's already proven, he's already done that. So if he can get back to Pro Bowl form, then you're going to look at him and go, man, he's underpaid. There's a handful of guys that are making more than him because these contracts continuously go up. So I just think those 3 things, the head coach, the quarterback, and the owner, are a recipe for success. And we'll see that in coming years. Obviously not this year.
All right. Thank you, Carson. That matters tremendously.
Everything's going to be fine, Jim. You hear Carson said the future seasons, you'll be okay.
What I like about what Carson said, I mean, obviously there's the cover one is really important. I mean, no one can get separation, and it's just a drag. I want to talk about another guy, Carson, because he kind of reminds me of you. I want to talk about Joe Burrow. All right, Heisman Trophy winners, him, first overall picks. Hey, I think he spent time at your brother's QB summit. But one difference is you were able to learn from the sidelines as a rookie. Burrow, baptism by fire, day one. What are your thoughts on this guy? I mean, I think he's really special. Obviously, the injury, but I think he's a really special guy.
I think the world of him. I think he's got it all. He's got a ton of confidence. He's not the greatest thrower of the football. I mean, if you were to take him and go to your local park with Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson, and a handful of other guys, he wouldn't be in your top tier of that group of just pure passers, can absolutely go out there and just spin it. He throws it well enough, but man, when he needs to play well and he needs to step up in big moments, if you just go back and watch him at LSU on that last 4 or 5 game stretch, I mean, he didn't miss a throw on the biggest stage with the most pressure. And on top of all that, so he's got that playmaking ability. He's got a good enough arm. He's way, slipperier than we thought he was. We thought he could run a little bit, but man, he's really good with the ball in his hands when he breaks the pocket. He's a lot faster. He's a lot quicker. He's a lot harder to bring down than I think any of us thought once he got to this level. And on top of that, man, when you go back and watch him play around really not a ton of help. I mean, he does have 2 good playmakers outside, and AJ Green, who's been in and out of the lineup, and T. Higgins, who's going to be a star for him. So he's got some weapons outside. He doesn't have a ton of help up front. They need to really bolster up that offensive line. But you don't see him making those rookie throws. You don't see him making those, you're watching on TV and you don't hear yourself going, oh, no. you don't have those moments with Joe that you do with it feels like every other rookie quarterback.
Oh, that is perfect. You just don't. I was watching Josh last night, and I'm trying to remember whether I felt that he was ever immature. He's got such a great style to him. But again, I wouldn't want him necessarily in the park throwing the ball. But some of these rookies and some of these guys in their second, third year, they just shock you with their poise.
But you saw Josh have those moments as a rookie, those throws where you're like, no, don't. Oh, right. He threw it.
Here's what happens. I talk about this with Bill a lot. I stopped watching the Bills because those games are crummy, right? And then suddenly I'm starting to hear about this guy, and then I meet him at the Super Bowl, and he's got incredible poise. He's a tall guy. Of course, he's got he's got it with a very nice-looking woman. And I'm thinking, wait a second. This guy, maybe Buffalo is cooler than I thought. And they are a fun team. I love Sean McDermott. I knew him. I knew his father. What a fun guy. And they have a good time. They seem to be totally enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
Again, they're winning. It's really easy to have a smile on your face when you're winning. And it's really easy to not smile at all the week after you lost. But you're right about Josh. I mean, he is so Buffalo and so perfect. And you saw those mistakes his first year. And then you watch him play his second year, and you still saw some of those mistakes, far fewer than his rookie year. And then if you go back and look at this year, you're still seeing some of those mistakes. You're still seeing those kind of hot and cold games. Last night, he was unbelievable. He didn't miss. 3 weeks ago, he struggled. So, but the point is, you're consistently seeing him continuously improve year after year, which is what you want with a young guy, especially a young guy coming out of a small Wyoming. I know it's D1. I don't know what conference it's even in, but you're seeing that progression, that natural progression. He's very well coached. Again, Great ownership. You look at that ownership and the head coach and everybody that they've hired and the draft picks that they've hit on and the Stephon Diggs trade that's paying dividends. I mean, that's a really, really exciting team to get behind right now.
Well, Carson, I'm hogging. I got to ask you this before I get over to Bill. Are there some owners you would fire if you could fire an owner?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you look at, you start in Ohio and you look at both ownership groups in Ohio. There's a reason teams win consistently. There's a reason Pittsburgh always seems to be pretty good. There's a reason Baltimore's always pretty good. There's a reason Seattle. I mean, you look, it's easy to assimilate success with the quarterback, but then you look at a franchise like Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh almost went to the playoffs with Duck at quarterback. You just consistently see well-run organizations have success. And I think that's pretty much on par across the board in all professional sports, especially at the NFL level, where you only have 16 weeks to prove whether you got it or not. And so it's such a condensed window compared to baseball and basketball, where ownership really seems to shine with such a limited amount of games to prove your worth. And I just look at these consistently good teams and their own, the New York Giants. The New York Giants were down in the dumps. The New York Giants are owned by the Mara family, and they consistently figure it out. They know how to get their team back. They're not going to win a Super Bowl every year or go to the playoffs every year, but the teams with consistent ownership that knows what they're doing and knows how to hire the right people around them are the ones that you consistently see in the win column.
Jim, you see that in stocks all the time, right? I mean, how often do you say the success is based on the CEO that runs the company?
I mean, look, Johnson & Johnson. Why is Johnson & Johnson always a great stock? Well, because they've got an unbelievable guy from West Point. Loves football, by the way. Can't wait for the West Point for the Army-Navy game, which will be played at West Point. And then there's other companies that just have like the worst CEOs, and you know how they're going to do. I don't feel like picking on them right now, but it's exactly like that. Now, ownership-based, typically not as bad in stocks because it can be very diffuse. It's usually index funds these days that are the largest shareholders. But we see at times there's a couple superstars. There's Jensen Huang at NVIDIA. He's remarkable. Lisa Su at AMD. She's remarkable. And then there's a giant drop-off, frankly, where you just get another group of just a big, big decline. So it's almost like you got Aaron Rodgers, okay, and you got Tom Brady. And then the next level is the next level down is Ben's not good. Ben's a drop off. There's a lot of Bens in companies. Just a huge number of Bens. There's Bens in Pfizer. There's a Ben at AstraZeneca. There's a Ben at almost every single drug company. And then there's Gorski, and Gorski's he's definitely Aaron Rodgers. Right. Definitely is.
Yeah, and it's the same thing when I'm looking at private equity deal. It's the same thing. The first thing I look at when I'm looking at a deck is who runs the company and have they successfully delivered a product to market, and how many times have they done it, and how many times have they missed. It's the same thing when you look at these ownership groups. You look at the Seattle Seahawks, and unfortunately things have changed ownership wise with the passing, but they hire the right people. They go out and get Pete Carroll and Snyder, the GM. They go out and find the right people, and then they trust and entrust in Pete to hire great coaches around him. And you've seen coaches get poached off of his staff for head jobs. So it's the same thing. It's just a business. It's a very well-run business.
It's a business
for all owners, unfortunately, because of the collective bargaining agreement. But the best owners win, and they consistently are in the playoffs.
But if you want the best owner for private equity, it's a guy by the name of Bill Ford. He's a General Atlantic. Always look for every General Atlantic deal. They're all winners. He just had a big one with IHS Market. It was bought by SPG. Now, Bill Ford is known. I'm from Summit, New Jersey. Bill Ford has the record. 7 interceptions in one game for Summit High, then goes on and just does. Bill Ford is incredible. But, we used to think of two guys, Willie Wilson and Bill Ford. They were winners. Now, Willie Wilson he went wayward, which is too bad. And Bill Ford ended up running the most successful private equity firm in history. And he attributes much of his success to his defensive back work when he played for Summit High, which is a big deal. Although Michael Badgley gaffed me this weekend. He was a Summit High kicker in my daughter's class, and he got me -2. Badgley was on the couch in Jersey with my daughter when he got the call to go play for the Chargers. There is a couch. There really is a couch, Carson. And I think there's a lot of couch guys that like that. Didn't Denver have any couches? Are there no couches in Denver?
Hey, anything's possible in 2020, and COVID has changed, obviously, the landscape of everything. I'm kind of like waiting to get a call at some point. If these QBs keep going down and these COVID tests keep coming up, my phone might start ringing, which would be a bad deal for that owner and that team in that city.
Carson, I thought that Colt McCoy was terrible. He's serviceable.
Yeah, he won.
He won a game. Beat Seattle in Seattle.
Happy. Do you think anyone's happy at the Eagles?
No. Who's going to be happy there?
Well,
I don't even think your Matt's happy at this point.
Look, obviously, win and lose really matters, and there's some quarterbacks who may be second rate. I mean, look, I happen to think that Dalton wins tonight.
Interesting.
Oh, I don't know about that.
What's the spread in that game?
Bill's been putting in a lot of guys this week. Bill, you and I differ this week. I would have been in the playoffs.
Oh, you're going to blame this on me? I'm going to take the blame on this?
Untrue. But you know who got me in the playoffs? Like you guys didn't the Super Bowl? Who do you think has got me in the Super Bowl? This man.
This guy.
This man. You are unbelievable in fantasy. Do you know how bankable you were in fantasy? I mean, you had high ceiling, okay? And it was just one of those guys, you were plug and play. And then when you get hurt, do you know how down I was? I think I was more down than you. Well, probably not. But close.
Carson, Jim just gave you the ultimate compliment because whenever he has a CEO on Mad Money, the ones that he really likes, the ones that he really buys into, that knows they're a great company, he calls them bankable. If you watch all his interviews, he doesn't say it all the time, but the CEOs he really likes and really knows make money for the company, he calls them bankable. He just gave you a huge compliment.
Oh my God, you were the greatest pick. You were the everyone says. Do you know that everyone always says there's no difference in quarterbacks? It's like, you don't have to pick or you pick. No, you have to be able to have a guy who's going to put up 30 points consistently. All right. Now, maybe Rodgers does that, but you were as consistent. You were money. Now, do you realize how important you were to out of market people like me?
You know what made me bankable is
What?
Chad Ochocinco, Terrell Owens, TJ Hushmanzada, Larry Fitzgerald. I can keep
Anquan
going
Boldin.
too. I never got to play with Anquan, but Anquan was a great one, a future
Anquan
Hall
was
of
with
Famer.
you. He wasn't with you that
No,
first year in Arizona? Oh, he was in
unfortunately,
Baltimore
no.
then, I guess.
He was in Baltimore. He won a Super Bowl in Baltimore that year.
That's right. That's right.
How about your line?
They beat the Niners.
Your line,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I was surrounded by great players, man. My first year in Arizona, we had an unbelievable line. My first couple of years in Cincy, we were really, really good. And to get back to the Carson Wentz thing, you don't want to beat a horse to death, but if you just watch what's happened to them up front, I mean, they've just been decimated. They've got, who's playing left guard now? Didn't Peters move to left guard? I mean, he's a stalwart
Peters
left
is
tackle.
just being pushed back, and they got this guy Mariota. I mean, he was a force guy, he's a rugby guy. I mean, last year when you watched the September game with the Eagles versus Green Bay, there was Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, and they were Fort Knox. I mean, don't even bother. Jason Peters was younger then, but you had a whole right side that it was unassailable. And at that point, you had a running back who typically could do some blocking. And it's really painful to see how many different combinations. They did a piece. There was something like 11 different combinations of offensive line. Who would feel safe behind that? And a lot of them are just cast-offs.
You've got to be able to step into
just
throws.
another guy.
You've got to be able to step into throws. You have to be able to transfer your weight from your back foot into your front foot. If you want to deliver the ball accurately and on time, you have to have that confidence up in front of you that when somebody does get beat outside and the pressure is coming from around you, you have to be able to move your way up in the pocket. When you have to move up in the pocket and your offensive lineman is moving backwards and closing that gap between you and the back of your offensive lineman, or worse, the front of your defensive lineman, you can't step into throws and deliver the ball accurately. It doesn't matter if you've got Brady. Rodgers is a little different. Rodgers can do it because Rodgers very rarely transitions from back foot to front foot. He flicks the ball. But outside of Aaron Rodgers, I don't know anybody that can be successful in that situation.
All right, well, look, I got to ask you this because I think that the pressure on the football players like Wentz is enough. But does anyone ever feel pressure from being a fantasy player, being a guy that we pick?
No, I can't say that the pressures, the pressure from right now, what Carson's dealing with is the media is crushing him.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
And as much as you say that doesn't affect me, I don't hear it. It's impossible not to.
Should I call him?
You should reach out and just say, hey man, we're thinking about you. But it's impossible. It's impossible not to be thinking about that. It's impossible. You walk in the locker room and the entire locker room's being asked, hey, do you think Jalen's going to play this week? Hey, do you think they're going to pull Carson? Like, you're surrounded by it. And then you feel like your only defense is your household, your wife and kids. So it's impossible to block it out. And Carson he seems to me, I don't know him well, but he seems to me somebody that's just not naturally going to take that in stride like certain guys can.
You're right.
And so it's eating away at him. Give him the benefit of the doubt. He was drafted number 2 for a reason. He was really going to win the MVP in 2017, I believe, a runaway had he not gotten hurt. But you've got this window with Carson. Carson will not age well. Carson will not play great in his mid to late 30s. He's very Donovan McNabb-ish, super strong. He's a gunslinger. He has accuracy issues. He can take off and beat you with his feet. He can run through you. He can run around you. He's got all of those attributes. He's already had some issues injury-wise. So you've got this window with Carson from now until he's 31 or 32, where that is his peak performance. That is where he is in his prime. I don't think you're going to see it 32, 36, 38, kind of like you saw with McNabb. But what you have is you have a gunslinger. I mean, go back and watch a Raiders game when the Raiders are down 17 points. They're dinking the ball. They're throwing check down. He's not going to throw a pick. He's not worried about anything other than his stat line. Carson's a fighter. Carson's in there. He's throwing Hail Marys when they're down 14. He doesn't care. He is trying to score. That right there, those teammates, those guys in that locker room believe in him. And if you watched the game the other night, you heard him say that different guys in the team, Alshon was pulling him aside and saying, hey, we're here with you. The guys in the defensive front were coming up and saying, hey, man, we got your back. We're here with you. That team believes in him. That team knows that it's chaos out there on offense. So give him some time. Let him get healthy. They've got to do something at the receiver position, the running back position, and they've got to get a little bit younger and better up front. But you've got a guy that's a fighter. And if I'm a fan, if I'm a Philadelphia fan, I know this is not our year. We're not going back to the Super Bowl this year. Your quarterback is fighting. He's not in there just throwing check down after check down after check down. If you want to see that happen, go watch the Raiders play. Go watch what they do when they're down. They're not climbing back, even though they know they're going to lose. They're throwing the check down and throwing the check down and making sure their completion percent is above 65%. Carson's out there fighting, which I have a lot of love and respect for.
All right. Well, look, I do an Eagles Minute every Thursday. And I'm inspired by you. What I'm going to do is literally a love letter to Carson because of how much I loved him. Okay? I'm going to say, look, this is for you, Carson, because he needs to hear it. It's a rough town. Do you know, and last story, I got to meet Andy Reid because when Andy Reid's son died tragically, he had seen me at practice, whatever, but he didn't know I was. The Inquirer wrote an article about how Andy Reid was a bad father. He never went to any of the games. He didn't really care. Well, my dad's cardiologist happened to have a kid on Andy Reid's football team at Harrington, outside of Philadelphia. And Andy Reid didn't want to detract from his son, so he used to watch every game in his station wagon. He never missed a game. So my dad told me that to the car. So I said, let me speak to the cardiologist. He told me, he goes, he's the greatest dad in the world. And it was just a crime. The Philadelphia Press picked the story up and they ran it for weeks. So I wrote this letter to Andy and Tammy saying, look, I don't ever pay attention to the press. I'm from the press. The press is lousy. They keep running with this story. They're idiots. Just please don't listen to them. About 4 months later, I got an email from Tammy saying, I'm going through all my mail, and sure enough, there's this guy. I see him on TV, and he wrote a letter to us. I just want to thank you. You're the only person who reached out. Only person who reached out and said, you know what? I love you. So I'm going to do the same thing it's different, obviously. That's just loss of a son. But you know what? I think Carson needs to hear somebody loves him. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because of you, all right?
I think everybody, when they're down and they're getting stomped on, is searching for confidence, especially at the quarterback position. You're looking for confidence in your center to make sure he snaps it right to you, not 150 miles an hour. You're looking for confidence in a receiver outside, like, hey, I know I got him one-on-one against their second quarter. I'm going to it. Every quarterback is looking for confidence, especially when you're in Carson's situation right now. So no doubt a heartfelt letter from you, Jim, would be huge.
All right, look, I got it. Carson, Bill and I are so grateful that you came on. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for liking the TV shows I do. Enjoy the rest of the season. You're a hero, okay? And you've done so much good. And it is an honor to meet you and have you on Bull Market Fantasy. Thank you so much.
Fellas, I'd love to come on anytime. I watch you every morning. My kids want to put cartoons on, and I'm watching Squawk on the Street. And I TiVo you in the afternoon. So I'm a big fan. I love following you and listening to what you have to say every morning. So keep it up. Have me on anytime.
Carson, before we let you go, could you talk about your Fill the Stadium initiative?
Yes. So if fans or listeners want to get involved, I'm part of it's called the Fill the Stadium initiative. And basically what's happening right now, our country is being devastated by COVID, but it is magnified 20-fold in third world countries and all over this planet right now. There are kids that don't have food, water, shelter. And we actually just heard a UNICEF stat came out a couple of days ago that 10,000 children in third world countries are dying per month of starvation, not of hunger, of starvation. And basically the Fill the Stadium initiative started because we realized all these stadiums are going to be empty because of COVID. And all these children, through Compassion International, a great organization that sponsors kids and finds, raises money for food, water, shelter, health screening, COVID tests. But there's kids all over the planet that, because of COVID, have not been sponsored, and funds have not been generated to sponsor these kids for a number of reasons. And so the concept is these stadiums are sitting empty. We're going to try to raise money to put a child from an impoverished third world country in this stadium. And so this 70,000 seat stadium, we're at, I think 18,000 children have been sponsored. So 18,000 kids are sitting in this virtual stadium. And you can go online. You can go to fillthestadium.com. You can go on my Instagram page at Carson Palmer 3. I've got a link in my bio. You can swipe up. You can donate. It's very secure. Compassion, all of the money goes to these children. The money doesn't go to pay a bunch of execs here and marketing here. The money goes to these kids, and it pays, like I said, for the necessities: food, water, shelter. So it's a great initiative. I know times are tough for a lot of listeners out there. Money is tight. You don't have to donate $1,000 or $100, $1, $5, $20, whatever it is, whatever you can afford to give goes directly to these kids. $500 for the year will support a child. So if you give $500, that will support a child and sustain that child's life for that year, and sponsor that child for that year, paying for the necessities to live. So it's a great initiative. Like I said, you can go to at Carson Palmer 3 on my Instagram page. There's a link in my bio to donate. Also, you can go to fillthestadium.com or on Fill the Stadium's Instagram page at Fill the Stadium.
I'm going right there, and I'm going to help this. This is incredibly important, and you bring the passion and the fire, and the least we can do is help out, because this is a tragedy of unbelievable. Wow, this is a stadium that cannot remain empty. I will be there. Bill will be there. Thank you, Carson.
Much appreciated. Thanks, fellas.